You're listening to ControlTalk Now, the Smart Buildings Podcast.
With the man, the myth, the legend. Ken Smyers and Eric Stromquist.
ControlTalk Now, the weekly podcast with building automation and smart building control news you can use.
Now, here's Eric.
All right. Hi. Welcome to ControlTalk Now, your Smart Buildings podcast and videocast for the week ending April 17th, 2016. My name is Eric Stromquist, and I am joined, as usual, by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only. You know who he is, Kenny Smyers, the control man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show. Oh, big dog.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Had a little sneeze there, brother.
Yeah, God bless you. Gesundheit.
Well, thanks, brother.
You need some of that warm weather coming up here. We're going to be out in California, San Diego. I think it was 87 degrees there. Actually going to, where are we going to? We're going up to Newport Beach, huh?
Well, buddy, we got some good stuff going on. Where Kenny and I are heading on the road next week. We're heading out to the Hotel California. We're going to talk a good bit about that. We're going to go out. We're going to the CGNA Controls Group North America meeting. And after that, we're going to track down one Jim Young, where he lives in Carlsbad, California, which is between LA and San Diego. Beautiful part of the world, Kenny. And Jim, if you don't know, is one of the partners and founders of RealComm IBcon, the smart buildings mecca, if you will. There's a conference coming up, so we'll talk to Jim about that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the show, Kenny. But needless to say, we're going to be packing our bags. We're going to be ready to go. ControlTalk Now is heading on the road. We're going to go find the best and the brightest in the industry, and hope we get a chance to interview them. And speaking of that, Kenny, as you know, you and I are not above wearing swag. So if you send us free stuff, we'll wear it on the show. So this jacket I'm wearing, Kenny, is from our friend Sarah Montaloni at Connect Air, connectair.com. They do wire and cable. If you don't have a wire and cable source, check them out. Sarah is good people. Connect Air does a fantastic job. So Sarah, thanks for the shirt, and really do appreciate that. Check Sarah out. Somebody we won't be seeing this week, Kenny, but we'll be seeing in the next couple of weeks at the Tritium Summit is our friend Ted Houck from Hepta Systems. I don't know about you, Kenny, but a lot of times you got to build control panels. And I know a lot of our integrators do, yours do as well. But, one of the things we talk a lot about, Kenny, is the fact that people are undermanned, right? You got these really great technicians and everybody is short of great technicians because just they're not as many as there need to be for the demand out there. Ted and Hepta Systems have another business that's called the Panel Shop, SHOPPE. You can actually see the ad on Control Trends if you check it out. But what they basically do, Kenny, is they'll make custom panels for you, specializing in JACEs. You can either send them your JACE and they'll put it in, send them the controls, or they can provide the controls for you, send a turnkey job. I think those things have a phone home option in them, so that if the panel gets out and it's not working for some reason, you can send them anywhere around the world, and Ted and his team will be able to troubleshoot you. So a special shout out to Ted Houck and Jason Houck and the rest of the team at Hepta Systems. They're big Control Trends watchers and viewers, so we appreciate those guys. And hey, if you got a unique product or service, let Kenny and I know about it. We'd like to let the Control Trends community know what you do.
Sure do, Eric. And I'll tell you, the thing about Hepta Systems is they've got talent on board. They've got a staff that can really help service people that don't have that kind of technical, internal staffing to do the big, sequence of operations. The large stuff, they really got the talent for it as far as like the master systems integrator perspective. In other words, they can take anybody's system and bring it into a single workstation, and they really can walk the walk and talk the talk. So they got a great staff.
Well, they do, Kenny, and I think, you and I talk a lot about it. A politician who I won't mention, I think, coined a phrase, calls it takes a village, and you coined another one called co-competition. Yeah. And I think that's a trend we've been seeing. Kenny, we've talked a lot about it. I mean, it's getting more and more difficult to do it alone. And I think partnering up with strategic partners, people that you might even compete with one day, and then they might be your partner the next day, is sort of the way we see things working. And I think what Ted and those guys do, as well as others, they have excess capacity. They can sub that out for you and sort of work behind the scenes to help you get the job done. But they work on big stuff, Kenny, big data centers and stuff like that. So good folks.
Oh, and lastly, they pulled in the champion trophies. So in other words, we're not just talking here. They won the 2014 Most Intelligent Office Portfolio at IBcon. They won the 2014 Innovator of the Year at the Tritium Summit. And they also won Control Trends Systems Integrator of the Year 2015. So these guys, that's proven performance. So well done, Ted Hauk and his staff.
Yeah, and Ted's going to hate me for saying this, but for those of you who may not have met Ted, if you've ever watched the show Breaking Bad, the actor that plays the DEA agent Hank, is a dead ringer for Ted. Many rumors out there state that Ted did some, the body double scenes where they needed, to take his shirt off or whatever. Ted would fill in for this actor because, Ted's pretty buff. This other guy's not. And then Ted was also a stunt double for this guy, allegedly. So if they were blowing stuff up or whatever, this guy that played Hank was kind of a sissy, so they bring Ted Hauk in to do the rough stuff. So, all right, Ted, we appreciate you, buddy. And we'll see. We'll be seeing Ted and others at the Tritium Summit that's coming up in May. So we got quite a schedule going on, Kenny. We'll be out CGNA this week, seeing Jim Young, and then in May we head out to the Tritium Summit, which is going to be off the chain, and then in June we head out to Jim Young and RealComm IBcon, which we'll talk more about in the show. But Kenny, what's going on with you, big dog?
Not much. We're settling in. Still got some traveling pains with the getting everything out of the boxes up on the shelves and getting comfortable. But it's a real nice area, and our weather is finally turning into a spring mode, and people are cutting the grass now, and just I love this type of year. This is my favorite time of year because the cold weather's over. I got to look forward to once I get this doggone thing. I got another 8 weeks with it, but we go out there and chase that white ball around and enjoy the weather. Yeah,
well, rumor has it that you become a one-armed golfer, that you're perfecting the swing with the one good arm. And
that's luck. There's no one-armed golfing here.
All right.
In fact, but I can do a lot more with the left hand. So that whole idea of mapping new networking in your brain, there must be something to it, because I'm much more comfortable with doing certain things left-handed. Where I first had this injury, I couldn't tie. I needed my wife to get dressed. I couldn't get anything going. I couldn't get socks on, stuff like that. But it's an amazingly humble experience to have surgery and go through that. But makes you appreciate when things are better and working well and the pain's gone. So I got a much more, a different attitude now. So I'm much more appreciative when things work. And I talk to those other people. They see this brace and they say, "Hey, where'd you get operated on?" or whatever. Because I was shocked to find out how many people had surgery or used this particular type of brace. Because I think once a day somebody says, yeah, they had this on, or they had one in their hip, but it moves in incrementals and degrees, So they allow you flexibility through the thing's rigid to begin with, but then they can allow flexibility in it, so you can start getting some of that movement back and start to get the full functionality of your fingers again. So it's long process, but
long process, big dog. Well, listen, I'll tell you what.
What about you? How are you doing? I noticed you're not wearing your sunglasses today.
Well, I can't see in color right now for some reason, but anyway, yeah, it's not quite as scary. We're getting there. And hopefully I'll be unveiling. We're going to see a bunch of our friends out at Controls Group North America, which is a group of 40 of the largest, sort of most sophisticated distributors on the planet. And we sort of band together to work together to provide better service. So it's going to be great to see everybody out there. Can't wait to see like Pat Marcello from M&M and Controls, John Donahue, Scott Cross, the rest of them. So, I'm feeling better and on the mend, so to speak. But I tell you what, it's humbling. You and I both, have big birthdays coming up this year, 0 numbers. And, dude, I tell you what, man, when, you sort of take your health for granted, and then when something comes up, it's kind of like you say, you're very appreciative of when things work well. But, hey, enough of that stuff, buddy. We're heading to California, man, to Hotel California. We're going to get out there. We're going to have a great time, see some great people. But, Kenny, we got a little bit of stuff to talk about. So what do we have up first on the show this week, big dog?
Well, first up, we had LinkSpring. We had 30 minutes with LinkSpring's webinar series, LinkSpring's new E2E cellular data service and Onyx TM CE121 cellular router. I really enjoy that the concept of E2E enterprise, edge to enterprise concept, and that's where we're going, and that's what the smart connectability is all about. Is bringing that all this stuff that used to be basically remote and just, talk one way, send information up sensors, valve positionings, all this stuff. Now we're bringing all those edge devices and making them smart and bringing them into the network. But this particular post is about, some of the, the heavy lifting that goes on when you're working out in the field, and you're trying to get the job started up, and it's really awkward to get on the network sometimes. You don't get the full cooperation, and you don't get into the IT guys don't want you on their network. So what this does is it gives you the cellular capability to provide a cellular router that's designed specifically to support this kind of application. It's secure, it's remote access of exchange data amongst the building, and systems integrators can't live without these things. They're indispensable. Everybody has found one or another or a way to do that so they can communicate with the equipment through the JACE with a router without going through the IT people to get the job started. So, but this one is really easy to set up. It's designed for this particular application to remotely monitor and control systems, the infrastructure, to include the equipment, meter, pumps, valves, and all the energy, utility, commercial building applications. So great stuff from LinkSpring.
No, it is a great start, and that is actually on April 20th, I believe, Kenny. And I suspect if you want to hop on that we got registration information on Control Trends, or you can go to linkspring.com. I'm sure get hooked up with that. That's Mark Peacock, Terry Swope, the rest of the team out there, Bob Mealy. They do a great job. And I tell you, Ken Sinclair was talking a good bit last week when we had him on about cellular sort of coming in and making more of an impact, as well as Jim Young when we spoke with him a little while ago. So I think we're going to see more and more cellular people getting involved.
Sure, certainly a very serious option. There's people don't particularly like the expense sometimes. It's not cheap, but it's secure, and it doesn't really service directly integration. The coming through the networks. But I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see a refinement of networks. How to get to it. Just like we always talked about network, and you push it into the building, so all the equipment on the rooftop and in the basements and mechanical rooms, everything gets onto that network like a body, like a nervous system. And we see different versions of that now. We're seeing people saying, okay, why push the information into the building, push it out? So some of the equipment manufacturers are putting in, these routers or these cellular routers on their equipment, and the equipment's going directly to the cloud. So, you're seeing some interesting innovations in the industry.
Well, you really are. And I think I probably got this wrong, but our friend Scott Cochran, CochranSupply.com out of Michigan, one of the sharpest knives in the drawer. Hey, Scott, hope you're doing well. Remember, I was up visiting him about a year or so ago, and I think the school system, and I was having an issue because if the power went out, they literally physically had to have people go reset all the systems in the schools. And Scott had arranged something with using the cellular stuff to be able to reset those systems remotely, which was going to save the school board literally, I think he said, $50,000-$60,000 a year on that. So the return on that was just a no-brainer. So I think you're going to see more and more innovative people like Scott and the rest of the people coming up with great applications for that.
I agree. Still see these lights on, light litter. We talk about that all the time. I just feel every time I go past the building with lights on or parking lot with lights on, or, some large, industrial commercial facility with its lights on, it's probably because they have a very archaic lighting, timing system that gets thrown off because of lightning or because of power outages. And the only way those things get reset was somebody gets in the car and physically drives over, gets in the mechanical room, opens up the Intermatic or Groslin box and resets the timer, because it's imagine if you had that under remote control and all you had to do is go to the computer and reset it, or have it automatically reset itself. But so there's so many things going on there.
Well, there is, and when Kenny talks about light litter, it's a term that Kenny coined, which basically, if you're like it's a beautiful sunny day in Atlanta today, and I guarantee if we go by virtually any government facility, the lights will be on, because as Kenny said, the time clocks or whatever, or the sensors are out of calibration or non-existent. And so light litter is, Kenny did the studies once, it attributes for literally millions and millions of dollars in wasted energy. And Kenny, what sort of incenses me more than anything is where I see it most, again, is government facilities. The private sector, I think, does have some of it, but for the most part, down here, I see it at the government locations. What about you?
Oh, it's ubiquitous. The ones that kill me are the some of the parish churches and some of the schools that I know are having difficulties with budgets and whatever. And then I go past their place and the lights are on. I've actually taken the time to go in and ask who's in charge, and can we do this? Can we fix this? Here's what you can do, and this is how easy it is. And gas stations, I think they're worried about the interior lighting, but I think what it is it's a manual process. So I would say the government has its share of apathy, but I think the government probably pushes harder, uniformly than most other organizations. I think the people that have to pay, people with budgets should be very conscientious of how they spend their energy, and they should have a watchdog or an internal champion that makes sure that the lights are under some kind of a supervised control. Like you said, it's a sensor type thing. It's a machine to machine. You don't need people involved. You just have to make that initial investment. You'll get that return on your investment probably within a year because of the wasted lighting. See, I don't think what happens with lights, if you go past the light, it doesn't bother you the way if it was running water. If it was a fire, of course you call the fire department.
Right.
If it was gushing water from a broken pipe or something, you say, hey, man, we've got a water
Drive me
leak.
crazy, man.
But the lights on, it just doesn't hit our sensibilities as far as it being a wrong. You can't feel the pain there, but it's collectively it's billions of dollars.
And what's funny about it is that you would think a politician would get onto this, right? You would think you'd have like the light litter party or somebody like Trump or Hillary. Anyway, it's a no-brainer to fix it, and it's probably one of the easiest things to fix. You just either put a photo sensor on there, get it recalibrated, or use something like the bullet that Brian Pike had, where you're monitoring the lights, and at the same time you have a video camera on. There's so many great solutions out there, but why people ignore it? And I think you're right. I think if you had like a fire hydrant or faucets where water was running into the street, people wouldn't tolerate that. They go fix it right away. Yeah, we saw that. What was it down in Orlando? You and I, we were doing the show for the Control Trends. We pulled into a parking lot, and the backflow preventer broke. Yeah. And you should have seen the fuss there. Obviously, it's a little bit, maybe it's a bad analogy there, but I just think. We've got the technology. It's really low tech. It's low hanging fruit, and I really like to see concerted effort. Again, I think it's just a problem with there's so many, like you said at the beginning of the show. There's just not enough people to go around. Everybody's got their plates full of duties or assignments and projects and deliverables. They're not looking for anything to do. So you got to put this in the hands of your trusted building automation system, or your maybe not if for smaller facilities you don't have a building automation system. Maybe you just have some sort of a integration where you're taking your HVAC equipment and then your lighting and some other things, and it's not that hard. We have the controls, we have the capabilities, we have contractors that can help out and really invest that money in your own facility, and you'll get your money back, guaranteed. Well, and Kenny created a website on Facebook called thegreenmarines.com, or The Green Marines on Facebook, and where people could actually upload photos of light litter. And we actually, one of the gas stations, one of the big chains, somebody uploaded some photos there, and we reached out to their Facebook. And this gets to how social media can work. We sort of reached out to them through social media, going, help us stop light litter. And I think they actually got that one fixed. But it's too big for me and you, Kenny, but we sort of got it started. But I think it's a great opportunity, and it's the right thing to do. And speaking of the right thing to do, Kenny Smyers, the ledge thing about me and Tony Fidel and the Nest thermostat and the fist fight, which is not true. Our next post, our friends at Honeywell, karma's got you, Tony. The karma police are after you. Tell them about our next post, Kenny. Sure, well, Eric, and I love it because you still use the word cool, but it was many of the people that got in a thermostat dispute with Nest and Honeywell and Ecobee and oh gosh, there's probably 6-7 thermostats out there that are really genuinely cool thermostats. But the Lyric thermostat from Honeywell really brought it up to the next level. I watched this video. We got a nice video in there, and it's called your title was "Watch Out, Nest. The second generation Lyric is making beautiful music," and that's a good play on words because. Lyric being an interesting title or name for a thermostat, but when it gets down to it, this thermostat, they made some improvements to it that I think it really does come back on the second generation Lyric, really does hit home with some more technology. Let's face it, Honeywell has been making thermostats since 1885. They just have unsurpassed technology and engineering, and they know a lot about the components of the thermostat cycle, the set point, how you have the anticipation, you shut things off. They really have done a marvelous job with thermostats over these since 1885.
But then we got into this real intelligent thermostat, smart thermostat, and we saw Nest take an incredibly lead, it just jumped out in front and became a buzzword. The way it was packaged, that Apple feeling, that Apple effect was huge. And then Nest didn't waste any time. They got involved with the federal government, got out there and did the smart thermostat with the ADR and having that demand response connection to the meters that they could actually go in and really make a big impact. And Honeywell was right there all along. But now I really think that this lyric comes to the plate with the, when it does the humidity and the temperature, it has that geofencing stuff, it has the adaptable recovery, auto changeover, and it just got a nice interface now. I think they've improved it, so it's very, very appealing to your sensibilities.
Well, I'm sorry for interrupting, but you're right. So they got the cool factor, but the thing about it is when you talk about the technology, these guys have been building these thermostats forever. But I want you to think about it. It's a PID loop that you've got there, and a PID loop is basically a program where you anticipate. So I pretty much can guarantee the Honeywell is going to control better than anybody just because of that engineering know-how and those algorithms that Honeywell has built into that. I mean, they're not giving that technology away. But then you put in things like you say, like, the humidity, the comfort view where you can do the humidity and everything else is really cool. The geofencing is kind of a cool thing, Kenny, for our listeners who might know what geofencing is. Basically, as opposed to setting a time you're going to arrive home or whatever, which is what most programmable thermostats do, or in Nest case, they've got an occupancy sensor, so when you walk in, it knows you're there or it knows you've left. The geofencing actually knows where you are, so when you get within a certain number of miles from your home, it knows you're heading home, and then it'll bring the heating and cooling on. Okay, so why does that matter? Well, let's think about this. So you live in Pittsburgh. You just came through the winter. It's a super, super cold day. You come home at night. It's dark outside. You open the door. The Nest thermostat goes, oh, Kenny's home. Let's turn the heat on. Well, it's going to take it a while to catch up. But the Honeywell thermostat's going to say, Kenny's about 5 miles from home. Let's crank this heat up because he's going to want to have a warm house, a hot wife, and a cold beer when he gets home, right?
Dang right. No, you're right. And see, it's the technology now. So, okay, let's just go back and review a little bit. It will work with the Apple's home systems and the Samsung home system. So that's another thing that's cool too, is that it integrates. So it's not making you make a choice. It came out of the box ready to talk and become part of your home system. So I think that's really cool too. But like you said, if you put something on a schedule and you get into traffic, or you change your mind, you go to shopping, or you stop and get something here, that schedule didn't get changed. It's in the heating mode way before you got home, or air conditioning mode. So I think that geofencing is kind of cool. I applaud Honeywell for not taking anything but solid measures to move forward into thermostat, because thermostats still are the primary control device, to control energy in the world. So the more the thermostat gets, more improvements they make it, the better control we're getting ultimately over our energy. The more better stewards we are with the planet, with the, carbon emissions. But again, there's tremendous amounts of thermostat, or tremendous choices in thermostats, but it's always based on economics and thresholds. So you get the good, better, best style. So I think if you're going to high end, the Lyric thermostat now stands toe to toe with Nest, and maybe even, like you said, has taken a step ahead of Nest.
Well, and I tell you what, you and I both know, because Kenny and I both been Honeywell distributors since before the beginning of time. And, they took some of the executives from the building automation control side and moved them over to this thermostat side. Guys like Mike Keller, Tom Rosbach. I mean, super, super sharp guys. So Honeywell, and girls, they've got some great female executives too, but Honeywell is really investing, their top executives over there. Now, the only thing that Honeywell's really screwed up with this whole Lyric thing, okay, Kenny, is, they had a really cool commercial that they ran. They just picked the wrong guy to do it. I mean, they should have had me and you in the commercial, Kenny, and they could have saved a lot of money. It would have been a lot cooler, but outside of the commercial, they're sort of hitting on it,
Well, I'll tell you, I want to piggyback off that and say that we had that awesome insight with the Pendulum book, in the marketing, and now they changed the marketing. I think. Kenny, give them a little stable datum on this. Tell them about Pendulum, sort of, because we refer to that quite a bit. Let's take a second, sort of set that up, and what Pendulum's all about, and why it's relevant. I'd love to. social media brought us into the mainstream of really focusing. We follow control trends. So in 2012, 2013, we caught up with social media impacting our industry and impacting the world at large. Okay, so we started doing social media plugs, and we got some really intelligent people, and ultimately we came across a book called The Pendulum. And The Pendulum says that we have a me period, and we have a we period. And like a pendulum, it swings from me generations to we generations. And it's a 40-year cycle. So if you have 0 here, you go up 20 years into the me generation, 20 years back, up to the, it's 10 years. So it's a 20-year in each department. So we are currently in a we generation lifestyle. And they've taken us back all the way to the Roman days, the Egyptian days, all the incredible human events. And they really and truly make a case saying that this is a cycle that goes through all our social, regardless of what civilizations, this we, me generation thing has actually been, proven to their opinion that
Ken, you're absolutely right, and you're doing a great job with this. But so just to put it in perspective, so if you've lived a while, if you lived through the 80s was a me generation. I mean, we glorified people like J.R. Ewing on Dallas, Donald Trump when he first got started, the art of the deal, because it was all about the individual. That's the me. We glorify the individual, and we really reward people that do whatever it takes to get ahead. That's the me generation. So all the ads are about how you can be better, how you can succeed, how you can kick the crap out of the next person. The me generation is where we sort of all rally. Like we know the whole Occupy Wall Street is a great example of a manifestation of the we generation. It's all about us. And where this becomes really germane is if you are in a we cycle, yet you are using a me advertising strategy, which is, I think this backs to your ad, and I'll let you complete that piece. You're out of sync with what the public wants. Right. So, and I think another great example of this, they redid the TV show Dallas here a couple of years ago. It was a complete flop because, again, it was a me TV show about an individual kicking the crap out of everybody else. And we're in a we generation. So it didn't resonate.
And so just to piggyback, take the lead from there, take your lead. The ones that have been successful has been McDonald's. They showed everything followed movies. Where you had a tremendous amount of single persons being pioneers and frontiersmen, and then teams became it. And then the McDonald's. I can run to get the book, but I mean it's just so fabulous to understand and carousel hair thing about you being more dynamic or whatever. That cycle ended, and then it all became about us. In the car commercials again. So if you're not in sync with the me we generation, your marketing actually antagonizes the person's sensibilities, and so it's a subtle thing. It's not obvious. You don't walk around with a W or me, M on your head saying, this is my setting. It's just a pickup. It's almost like. Something, it's like a phenomenon.
Yeah, right. So no. For example, so if you were going to do, and this is where I think Nest was very much in sync, right? And companies like Comfy are very much in sync. If you were going to really capitalize on being part of the we generation now, it would be you would show pictures of little kids and say, hey, the economies, not the economy, but the environment is degrading. Our company has come out with this thermostat that's going to save better energy. It's going to be easier to use. It's going to be something your family can really enjoy. You're going to help create the future. That would hit right in the sweet spot of that, right? And that's what you got to do.
Deserve a break today, so get up and get away to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay, every single one of their marketing jingles went through an analysis of this, and he changed it into let's go on a journey, or let's have fun, or let's play bingo. In other words, they are so on top of it. So my again, to get back to what we may have witnessed was in the initial deployment of the media in the marketing for some thermostats, they missed the mark, and now that they've changed it, I think it's going to resonate better because now they've caught up to the we thing, us, planet,
right.
team. group instead of me being a single guy.
Right.
Snap the finger music, snap the finger fire, snap the finger, somebody serving the wine. That was all me. And then I think now this is now we. It shows kids, schools, it shows environment friendly. And I think it's it's a big play and how well you how successful your products are.
Well, and I tell you what, it's interesting. But of course, the whole point of pendulum is the cycle will change again. And then we'll be back to the me, and then your marketing better be in sync with that. It better be like, you deserve a break today, right? I mean, it better be about the me again. And it's interesting because the pendulum it shows you how to spot these trends. It usually starts with music and movies. I mean, the lyrics of songs, like Kenny says, they go back hundreds and hundreds of years, and can show where the lyrics of the songs begin to change. There's always a harbinger. There are always outliers that sort of step out and then and sort of let you know that the cycle is getting ready to change again. But it's due to change again, what, Kenny, in 2030? Is that it, or 2020?
20 is going to start coming down again from the we generation. So it'll be 10 years. So 2030, I believe it'll be beginning a me generation.
Right. And see, I think to me, and this is pure conjecture on my part, you can go to the website pendulum.com and check it out. But see, I think, in the book, they talk about, Kenny, the fact that there'll be outliers that will be a little bit out of sync. They're a little bit ahead.
Predictors,
predictors. And I think Donald Trump is a predictor of this. I think one way you could explain his popularity is he's that me guy who is out, if you think about his whole thing, it's about, he's really beating on the me thing that, in other words, appealing to people as individuals, being separate from everybody else, because that's part of the me thing, is it's us against them. And, I don't think he's going to win the election, but I think he might be that predictor that's letting us know that, in 2020, I think you said, we'll be sliding back to the me, and we'll have to change the whole thing around again. Kenny, it'll have to be a solo show. You'll have to have your show. I'll have to have my show, because it'll be all me, right?
Well, if we're still hitting this, that'll be a fun thing to do, and we can we'll still find ways to get together and do it as a team.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think with the me thing is that in the outliers, I think you said that very well. But I think what's happening, I think, with our society right now too, is that people they want to see the train wreck. They want to see disruption. We've seen disruption hit our industry. We've seen disruption hit the automobile industry, hit all the different industries. It finally hit controls and HVAC. And we saw a lot of small startup companies and small intelligent people or groups of people actually make a big impact, much bigger than people predicted. So I think we're in this disruption phase. We really want to see. There's a lot of people, especially the Republican Party. They want to see holes in the balloon. They want to see the balloon get pumped up again with new air, and not just keep going on and on and on with the same broken thing.
Well, no, but it could be, Kenny, but I think you could have disruption in both cycles. They just look differently, okay? So so I think in our cycle, we're in a we cycle. We talk about co-competition. We talk about things like Haystack's a great example of a we collaboration, right? You got all these companies that compete together, but they're coming together to make something better. It's all about me. Whereas in, disruption in a me cycle is, Donald Trump buying a bunch of buildings and casinos and trying to make everybody else go bankrupt, right? So disruption, I think, is a common factor in both cycles. It just looks different. So interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. And well, speaking of a guy who kind of has his hand on the pulse of all that, and let's get to our next post, because you and I are heading out to Silicon Valley in June. Let's talk a little bit about Jim Young, RealComm, IBcon, and let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing next week, buddy.
Well, Eric, great transition point. And I think what we've found out about collaboration and disruption and a lot of technologies was through the RealComm. I mean, if there's one person that serves as an icon for, the intelligent, smart, connected, high-performance building, it's Jim Young and of course, Howard Berger together and their team at RealComm, IBcon. But that's where I think I really woke up and saw where what we did collide with the markets that we try to sell to, and where the origins of a lot of the headwinds that push our industry aren't by accident. They're done by design, and they're done at these meetings. And this is where you take a gigantic group of users and end users and building owners, and you present them with a 2 or 3 day episode, which introduces them to the people that are implementing new technologies and real game-changing technologies and innovation at a level. To continuously put this out requires somebody that just has incredible durability and to sustain this effort. But like Jim told us, it won't stop because we're right in the middle of something big. It's a lot of the stuff that we think it's kind of got to the highest point. And now we're going to come down and kind of relax a little bit, we heard about the venture capitalists now are slowing down on their investments, because there isn't a whole lot of great technology anymore, and they're not just going to spend money for the sake of spending money. But in our industry, Jim mentioned that, we saw last year or last RealComm, or actually 2 years ago, we saw IBM, we saw Microsoft, we saw Dell, we saw Google, we saw people in the control world that weren't there before. And now he's saying it's coming again. And now he's saying that now GE Current's going to come, and how the IIoT, the industrial Internet of Things, is really now taking hold here. Accenture's coming into the space, the building space. Cisco, IBM now are coming back with redoubled efforts on trying to get into the huge market here. So and we caught on to that whole thing at RealComm, IBcon with Jim Young. So. You tell me what you think we're going to see there. What do we expect to see?
I think a couple of things. It was interesting because one of the major companies, the chip makers, came in and sort of scared the hell out of everybody. They came in sort of with a me type attitude, like we can do this better than anybody else, and we're sort of looking to bypass the whole system. Or at least that's how the particular individual came across, and it was fascinating because it really shook things up. You talk about disruption, and I won't mention the company, but it sort of scared the hell out of everybody. And then it was interesting because the next year he was nowhere to be found, and all of a sudden the message was, "Hey, we're going to work together to come up with better solutions." So I think that's an example of a company who really got the message quickly and changed their approach. But I think the deal is, Kenny, the users are becoming more and more sophisticated. This is, in a large effect, is due to Jim Young and what he's done, the way he's educated the users. So I look at this conference, RealComm IBcon, is just a phenomenal opportunity because not only can you go and learn about the greatest technologies, because you have the breakout sessions, you have the product shows, so you get that piece of it. But where else can you go and actually rub shoulders with your potential customers? And I'm talking about people that are sophisticated, that are on the board. They're there because they know that smart buildings and operational expense savings and is critical. And I think the best example I can give is the biggest project we had in Atlanta is this huge building downtown. And we're sitting behind this guy, and we get to talking to him. It's one of the breakout sessions on cybersecurity. And, he asked about some, mentioned from Atlanta. He says, well, this bill. I said, yeah, we got the controls in. He goes, yeah, I own the building. So this is the financial guy going to these meetings that is getting up to date on the latest technology. So I say this is a mandatory place to be if you are involved at all in smart buildings, from being a distributor, a manufacturer, a consulting engineer, an architect, or a systems integrator, because the customers are telling you what they want. And Jim Young is a visionary, a lot like our friend Ken Sinclair, AutomatedBuildings.com. He's out in the future, sort of looking back a little bit. And it's a little bit like, Kenny, you've hunted before, and I know, and it's like if you're trying to hit a bird or something, if you aim where the bird is, by the time the bullet gets there, the bird's gone on. And I think that's a great analogy for our industry. Things are moving so rapidly. The rate of change is so rapid that if you're going to make any changes, implement any changes, you have to lead your target. And I know of no better place than RealComm IBcon and guys like Jim and Howard and the people they bring in to speak, to know where you need to aim to sort of keep up. But because if you aim where it's at right now, by the time you get there, it's going to be gone.
Well said. And he really nailed some stuff. For instance, we asked Jim, what are some of the observations? And he was saying how Silicon Valley funding's down. Remember, we were just talking about venture capitalists, and they're not spending money because the technologies that they're seeing aren't going to lead to those billion-dollar startups and turn the bend on it. So they're being more cautious. He said conference budgets are down. So that being said, that there's if you're going to have a limited budget and you're going to go to one place a year, or one upgrade, I call it the professional upgrades. When you go to these things, it's like going to a seminar that you, like you said, you got a little bit of time, a little bit of money, you get there, and it's all just information that's desperately important to your next move, like you said. But he said that what they've got planned this time is it's going to be an adventure. Not only are they going to give you the latest technologies, and the advisories, like you said, the groups and advisories and the breakouts are the best people in the business. They pick experts to come in and give short breakout sessions to really upgrade your information and bring you current with new technologies and innovation. They're talking about what's going on. It's going to be in Silicon Valley this year. It's going to be in San Jose. So San Jose stepped out and said, you know what, we need this. This is a great event. Not only is it germane to our city and making our city a more green and energy efficient city, but they accommodated them so that they got tours going to 8 to 10 interesting places. Levi Stadium. They're going to go to Stanford. They're going to go to Google, Intel, and it's just an amazing opportunity to see the latest and greatest technologies. A lot of people see the technologies here. And what we need to make buildings smarter, more connected, and more high performance or better performance, both operational technologies, people just aren't implementing. So we're trying to, I think, always figure out what is the solution, what is the code breaker. How do we get people to spend the money to make the move now instead of waiting and put it off? You use the term about paralysis by analysis. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, so this thing is to break inhibitions and break budget inhibitions, to spend the money now intelligently. Here's all the examples of how it works. You go get the testimonies you need from the smartest people in the business. But what do you think? Why don't people adopt?
Well, I think several reasons. I think right now, because energy costs are down, relatively speaking, I think a lot of people don't feel the pressure that they did in the past. And I think one of the things you'll learn at RealComm IBcon, talking to the really savvy real estate people, is it's the energy savings is a bonus, right? It's the operational expenses and making your operation and the better environmental control that is really the big thing that they're looking for. But so I think that, coupled with the fact there's so many choices, right? You hear so many stories, and this sort of gets back to maybe even pendulum a bit, Kenny. It's about your messaging is absolutely critical now. And I think I made a statement on the show a couple of times that I think more than ever, I think the victory is going to go to the companies and solutions that have the best messaging, right? Because everybody's got great technology. The technology is virtually the same with everybody. Somebody figures out how to do it this way. Somebody else has got it figured out. So it gets down to the messaging, right? So that's where the paralysis by analysis comes in. And, I asked Jim point blank, I said, Jim, it just seems like it's really hard. We're going to hear all this from Jim next week. Like I said, we've got a meeting set up with him. So we're going to, hopefully Jim's going to be our our first wheel, I should say, on ControlTalk Now, the Smart Buildings podcast next week. We hope to get him for an hour. But, Jim, I said, Jim, with the technology changing so rapidly and all the choices, why wouldn't you just wait? I can see where people might be sort of hesitant. He said, dude, the train is moving away from the station so rapidly that the sooner you jump on, the sooner you're going to be able to keep up. Because I think he coined a phrase, which is catching up is hell and might be impossible. So, and I think this is not just Jim saying this. This is from him talking to people like Daryl Smith from Microsoft, who arguably handles more real estate than probably anybody on the planet, and more sophisticatedly, and from the top people across the board. So the top people are really savvy. They understand this. They get it. But as opposed to hearing it from your distributor or your vendor, the thing that RealComm IBcon allows you to do is actually hear from the people that are spending the money. So
very good point. And catching up is hell. What an incredible summary right there. I mean, that could be the theme of the show. But he said that you're tested every day. You can't wait. He said that he's been doing this for 18 years, and he's afraid to take 4 to 6 months off, because if you come back, the gap of staying fluid with the industry and innovation, you'll literally become disconnected. And that, when he said that, it was something like John Sublett said at the summit last summit, was that with technology, it's accelerating, so that you have to make a mental and financial commitment to staying on top of technology, or you'll be orphaned. Your technology will become an island because you didn't keep current with the intermediate steps, the intermediate investments. So that when you go to make, if you stay, in your sweet spot, you don't want to spend any money or spend time to learn and stay on board with technology. When the time comes to do it, the jump will be so great that you won't be able to make it.
I love refugees, Kenny. And then, if Donald Trump is indeed an indicator of what the next me generation is going to look like, there's going to be no place for these technological refugees, right? He's going to build a digital wall around them. So get on board. Needless to say. So listen, we might
want to burp that one out there.
No, we're not burping anything. No edits, Kenny. No edits. But
no edits.
June 21st through the 24th, Silicon Valley, and like Kenny mentioned, they have some amazing tours of some of these really smart buildings and facilities, including Levi's Stadium. So that'll be great. That you can register on Control Trends. We have a link to the registration. Something you don't want to miss, as well as the Niagara Summit. I think the 3 events you got to make, no matter what, every year: the Control Trends Awards, the Tritium Summit, which is every other year, and then your vendor of choice the other year, and then of course RealComm, IBcon. You got to make this. And Jim brings up a good point, Kenny. I think you mentioned the paralysis by analysis. I think another thing that is confusing people a lot is now that smart buildings and smart cities have sort of become in vogue. I mean, you got a bunch of people out there are purporting to be sort of sources for smart conferences and so on and so forth. And not that they can't do some good stuff, but Jim's the original. Jim and Howard, the original. I mean, that's where you want to go. That's where you're going to get the best information. And I think enough said about that, buddy. We're going to be there, and you should too. And as Kenny and I are fond of saying, be there or be square.
Last thing I almost left out was that Jim made a saying, said, keep pace or retire. So that kind of summed it up, the inverse thing, that we have a relationship where the people that have the most control and have most control over the budget are the most senior members of the staff, and they're the most least likely to adopt rapidly, because they want to stay in that sweet spot until they get out of and retire. And what's happening is that's that crippling effect that so it's an inverse relationship, that the most powerful people controlling the most budgets are probably the most senior members of the organization that are most least likely to adopt or rapidly adopt new technology, because they don't want to go through another turbulent period of adoption, implementation, and then finally where it becomes part of the operational reality. So it's an inverse thing that we have to figure out too.
We do for sure. And listen, Kenny and I are going to go see Jimmy on next week. We're excited. So tune in next week for sure, because we're going to hopefully have 45 minutes to an hour with Jim Young. Now, we'll mention this, Kenny. These shows that I edit require a ton of time, usually about 5 to 6 hours over the weekend editing them. The file sizes are huge, so I have a super high speed. I got that Google, the maximum speed I can get. So even with that, it takes 35, 40 minutes sometimes to upload the videos. So it might not be up next Monday or Tuesday. I think I get back to Atlanta Wednesday. So if it's not up Monday or Tuesday, it will be up as soon as I can get the file uploaded to YouTube.
Okay.
All right, buddy. So we're going to take you to the mountain instead of the mountain having to come to you. All right, big dog.
That's nice.
Talking about innovative companies, man, we got sort of a company that I think really sort of stays in sync with really cool technology. Tell us about our next post, Kenny.
I'd love to. Functional Device asks, why do you pay more than you need to pay? Why do you go out and look for more challenging solutions when you can come to Functional Devices and just get the basic straight up power supplies, transformers? These guys are into mass production of the commercial components that really truly make everything work. The Functional Devices has been designing and manufacturing quality electronic devices in the United States of America since 1969. Functional Devices has a goal to provide high quality products for the most reliable and economic solutions for the needs of the customers, and world-class support from the sales and engineering experts. I really enjoy coming to Functional Devices for information when it comes down to how things work and what your concern should be when you wire stuff. But they've taken it to another step. They've also established themselves as a leader in the HVAC building controls industries. They have a tremendous amount of technical savvy when it comes to energy management, energy savings, and lighting controls. And now Functional Devices has taken a bigger leap into wireless. So I don't think there's a day goes by that we don't sell something with the Functional Devices box in it, whether it's a RIB relay, whether it's a power supply, whether it's a current sensor, current transducer. I mean, these guys really make some great products, and hats off to them just year in, year out. They're kind of quiet because but they do a good job marketing. They constantly pulse out with new information. But it's not glorious. It's not sexy. It's transformers. It's power supplies, and God bless them. They got to keep up with the social media, and they do it. And great products. But we have a nice link in there, and I recommend they have videos now, so they're doing everything they can to keep up front and in everybody's purchase orders,
And they were sponsors of the 2015 Control Trends Award, so they are good stuff. We handle them, Kenny. We saw a lot of them. Like you say, it's for the HVAC service guy or the smart buildings control expert. They know who functional devices are. They do a great job. So, all right, buddy, what do we have up next?
Well, next up is one of our favorites of all time. Mike Marston's post Control Pub Talk goes down under into Australia. Well, actually, they were all over the place. I'm going to let you handle the geographical plotting, but I know there was like something like Malaysia, Singapore. What is it next? But they wound up in Australia. Maybe it was the Philippines. But Mike Marston and EasyIO are working very closely with Scott Mensch and J2 Innovations, and they've come up with an Easy Stack solution that's becoming more and more potent and popular in not in the North American continent as much as Europe. I saw another post by Johan Shakarad, and they're doing training every quarter, and the classes are full, and the Easy Stack product is taken on. So this particular post has the smart building controls integrators, some of the smart guys from down under, joined Scott Mensch, J2 Innovation, and Mike Marston at a with a Control Pub Talk. And we saw SK Fu in the video, but how does Mike do it? How does he have all that energy to keep going around the world and maintain that passion and keep pushing the message of EasyIO?
I tell you what, Mike is one of the greats, Kenny. He really is. Love Mike Marston. I think we coined a phrase called the Controls Renaissance when we were out in Paris, and I think Mike is one of the leaders of the Controls Renaissance. He and the team at EasyIO, and part of that, they look at doing things differently. They look at doing things better. And Mike is a guy. I mean, you see it in this video. They're doing training with for their integrators down under. Mike, shooting these videos is not necessarily easy, but he comes through and makes sure that the global control trends community knows what he's up to. Introduces a bunch of his players down there, but it's interesting because you look and EasyIO is partnering with our friend Scott Mensch from J2 Innovation, and Scott has put the J2 Innovation stack in EasyIO, which is making that product even better, and it's just really tailored for the race to the small space, Kenny. I mean, you can go in there, you can take a single controller, the price points are right on it. Now you can get the graphics and the analytics and all built into it as well. So I think it's just a great example of what we're seeing with the companies that really get it. You don't see Mike going out. If we were in a me cycle, Mike would be going out trying to make it. He'd have Lim writing his own programs, and they would call it. They would say it's better, or they would sign a deal with Scott Mensch saying we can't mention this J2 Innovations, but I mean, part of this whole me cycle is, hey, we're partnering together, right? Together we're better, right? So, but great stuff. I thought it was a great video. Lim shot the footage there, and Mike is showing us around the world. How cool is that?
Well, I love it, and again, I learn something new each time. The coolest thing about that video was at the very end where the guy says, hey, this time you need to vote for SK Fu for Support Person of the Year. So you talk about a plug. That's great timing, and but I think it's true though. I think when you have confidence in a product and that answer is coming because you've got boilers down or the sequence isn't working, it's really just comforting to know that you're going to get the support. Somebody's going to work on the solution and get it to you ASAP. And that's why I think EasyIO wins, hands down so many times, is they're able to move quickly and effectively into a new area. And another thing that Mike has pointed out time and time again is that the controllers are not just for HVAC. They're not just for boilers. They're for anything that controls points on a network. And it's amazing some of the applications that these guys are putting those FG32 controller plus controllers on the FG20 controllers. They're going into different applications that you didn't think of before, like microbreweries, controlling like instead of a boiler plant or a chiller plant, how about a microbrewery? So that's where that pub talk came to, is when Mike actually showed us that first application that the entire brewery on that graphic was being controlled by FG32s.
No, it's great stuff. Great stuff. And of course, EasyIO, as Mike points out in the video, is won the Controller of the Year for, I think, every year since the beginning. So great stuff there. And it brings up another really interesting thing too, Kenny, because you talk about the tech support, and EasyIO is known for fantastic technical support. And it's just a whole trend we're seeing. I'm sort of going to wax a little bit to the young guns, and because obviously attracting people in our industry is something that is a mission that we're on, as well as people like Ken Sinclair, AutomatedBuildings.com. And, it used to be proximity, man. You had to show up at work. You had to be in a particular location. Well, proximity might still be important, but now it's global, meaning guys like SK Fu is obviously, arguably one of the best technical support guys on the planet. He's in Thailand, right? But you've used him. I've used him. You email him a question. He's working 24/7, or somebody is. You get you get your support question answered. So the way the support is being done, and the relative importance of proximity is really shifting, and that's a trend we have to pay attention to if we're going to attract really talented young people.
Yep, using that new technology is it's expected now. But
it is
HTML5 and the graphics and how you can create stuff on top of the platform is it's up to the individual how deep you want to dive into it, but it gives you all the tools, and it's open to the point where they encourage you to take their controller and almost break it, find a way to challenge this thing, and when you find a limitation or a threshold, we'll show you how to get past it, so.
Well, and Kenny, speaking of, sort of leading technologies, and this one is, I still think, out a little bit out in the future, but is coming rapidly. We interviewed Igor Messi and John Morris from a company called Ecorithmâ. Ken Sinclair, AutomatedBuildings.com, turned us on to these guys. And let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and what that could mean to the smart building. You can see the interview, obviously, on the post on Control Trends. But Kenny, your thoughts on that a little bit?
Well, my first experience with Ecorithmâ was through you and Ken Sinclair and the Building Whisperer. There was an article that Ken Sinclair had in the Automated Buildings a while back, and then he introduced us to John D. Morris, who's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. And this guy, you talk about passion, man, this guy just loves what he's doing. He's been in the business a long time. He was back in the early days with Lawn, and then he knows about about the building space, and he says that, hey guys, you got to see what we're doing here, and I got to introduce you to Dr. Messick. But Ecorithmâ basically is changing what it means to benchmark, showcase, and ensure occupant comfort, operational efficiency, and building health. They have a cloud-based software that automatically extracts specific and actual insights from a building sensor data, switching operational focus, reactive problem fixing, and go on and on. But what was really, really cool about this was when we met Dr. Igor Messick, that's M-E-Z-I-C. He's Chief Scientific and Technical Advisor. He grew up in an incredible environment. His father was a sea captain and took these gigantic freighters across the ocean. And once you go into the ocean and you're away from port, you better be able to fix anything that breaks down or whatever. You're on your own. You're a city, floating city. And he learned so many incredible things about how machines work and how you could hear it. And he came, somebody coined the term, I believe it's either John or Dr. Messick, that said, about a building whisperer, how this guy spent 40 years and he could walk past that compressor and say, that thing's going to break down tomorrow. They were in tune with it was like an organ, a heart or something. They knew when this thing was wheezing. They knew they could sense problems. Well, he created an algorithm that based on the what's that called? Not the media, but the I'll have to think about that or read it. But there's
he put
his algorithm into any organism.
Right, a self-learning algorithm, an artificial intelligence.
No,
Well, what you're thinking of that, Kenny? No, but I think the deal is, and this gets back to another book that Kenny and I both read and recommend called Bold, and it's talking about the future and technology and how that's gonna affect us. And in Bold, they're talking about artificial intelligence being the next thing and this is what Messick was talking about, Kenny. He was able to create a self-learning algorithm for anything. So it's not just like artificial intelligence. At one level would be something like Sky Foundry where, if then type statements, right? But what this self-learning algorithm does is it goes out and explores all the relationships and finds connections that you don't have to figure out, because there might be some connections that you can't. But with the self-learning thing, it becomes smarter and smarter and smarter, which is both on one hand amazing and wonderful, on the other hand kind of scary. Right? This is the stuff where Frankenstein and the monsters come from in the shows we used to watch growing up, right?
I watched that last night, by the way.
Which one?
Victor Frankenstein with the new one.
Okay, all right.
It wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I watched it. Yeah, I'm surprised you said that. Anyhow, go ahead.
But I think it's the next level. I think it's the next wave we're going to see, and I think Ecorithmâ might really have some. And I'm wondering if those guys are going to be at the Niagara Summit, and I wonder if they're going to be at RealComm, IBcon. If they are, if you guys are there, we'd love to catch up with you again. But as you can see from the interview, these guys are thinking differently, which gets back to one of Kenny's favorite terms, disruption. Because this will definitely be a disruptive technology. So let's keep our tabs on that, big dog. What do you say?
Yep, I lost the thread on what his terminology was, but what he believed in is that whatever the environment was, this algorithm could get there, and like you said, it was self-learned, but it simply like saturates itself into anything that's moving, anything that has that consumes energy, anything that turns off and on, and it basically learns the organisms, how it functions. So he started out using it on engines, jet engines,
right?
The ones that they actually contract the monitoring and the service of the engines, not the aircraft. It's not Boeing; it's the people that make the engines. They have this algorithm that tells the health and relative status of the engine. Well, he took this algorithm and he could put it into anything. He could even use it for a human heart. In fact, that was what I was trying to find. Was that whatever the media is, or whatever the there's a technical term that computer people talk about, and Tree Sullivan always talks about it, so that it describes how you can put the algorithm into it, and then the algorithm works. So you change whatever you put the algorithm into. I can't think of that name of that structure, but anyhow. So I remember asking him, so that you could use this to basically see if somebody's heart was beating normally. And he said, absolutely. And I got a really kick out of that, because that's true analytics. I mean, so the interview itself is just a preview. Ecorithmâ, as you see, I've got this thing going over here. I was on their website. They redid their website. This is the one that keeps changing in the background here. But it shows, I don't know what that is, F5 maybe, or certainly an aircraft. Diagnose issues before they arise. These guys are going to take analytics and building the operational health of a building to a new level. So, and I think these are going to be the ones that the VC guys are going to come out. We'll hear about these guys making the next big move. I think they're days, months, or half a year away from really bringing this thing to the next level in the large building space.
Good stuff, Kenny Smyers. And with that, buddy, I tell you what, I'm ready to go pack a bag because we're heading to California next week. So with that, we'll call it a week. A very, very special thanks to all our viewers and listeners of the podcast, which you can subscribe to on iTunes if you want to. We really appreciate everybody. So with that, we'll say have a great week. And remember, stay, and that's true for you too, Kenny, stay in control.
I'll try, Eric. Indeed.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. All right, buddy, go out and hit some golf balls or something.
I'm disappointed I couldn't remember that doggone thing. And as soon as we hang up here, or discontinue this, I will remember it. Doggone it.